Did you know there was another actor that actually shot scenes as the Incredible Hulk for the TV show pilot back in 1977? His name was Richard Kiel. But before we get into his very short career as the Hulk, let's take a look at some of his other very cool roles in television and movies, which include taking on Clint Eastwood, James Bond, and a young Superman. Kiel stood at 7 foot 2 inches tall, and he played a lot of monsters in his career.
You're traveling through another dimension.
And a lot of villains. I can't mention everything he was on, of course, but here are just some of his best TV guest appearances and movie roles over the years.
Really, man?
His third role on television had him playing in the same episode as the King of Monsters, Boris Karloff, on a TV series Thriller, on the episode Well of Doom.
And Mr. Richard Kiel, as sure as my name is Boris Karloff.
Then he played a couple of westerns, including one of the best western TV series of all time, in my humble opinion, The Rifleman. In the episode The Decision, he took on Chuck Connors himself. Kiel was the only one around at the time that was actually taller than Connors. Just before his gig on the Twilight Zone, he played on a couple of movies. This is him as that weird-looking creature on the movie The Phantom Planet, and then on the TV movie called The Phantom, which is basically based off the comic book superhero. It was a TV pilot that I don't think ever got picked up. And he played on that with Wolfman's Lon Chaney Jr. Probably one of Kiel's most famous monster roles, at least for the 60s, was that of the alien race on the Twilight Zone episode To Serve Man.
The rest of the book, To Serve Man, it's a cookbook.
He towers above everybody in this episode. His character has a giant head and speaks through means of telepathy.
No! 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 No!
Another guest appearance he did that a lot of folks remember was the I Dream of Jeannie episode, My Hero, which aired on that show's first season. In that episode, he terrorizes Major Nelson, only to be saved by Jeannie, of course.
Then thou shalt die in agony!
Judy!
What is happening?
Now you can go and pick on somebody your own size.
Thou were willing to die for me. Thou art the bravest man I have ever known.
Then he scared Gilligan half to death on Gilligan's Island before the castaways turned the tables on him.
Pick me up! Hurry! Everybody! There he is! Oh, never mind. I pick you up.
He played a Frankenstein-like monster on an episode of the Monkees.
Down the street, get funniest words.
Really, man? That's not my bag. Don't get uptight.
Hey, he's become a hippie.
He was also on two spy shows, I Spy and The Wild Wild West, which is a Western spy mashup. He appeared in the movie The Longest Yard with Burt Reynolds. And he was on Kolchak the Night Stalker in 2 episodes, Bad Medicine, and then a monster in the episode The Spanish Moss Murders back in 1974. He was even on the Saturday morning TV show The Land of the Lost as Malik in 2 episodes. And then he popped up on The Hardy Boys as a manager of a haunted house that likes to dress up as Frankenstein, of course. I mean, what else? Back in 1977.
May I help you? Do you have a reservation?
Do you know him?
Not socially. His name's Jaws. He kills people.
Of course, most fans of Richard Kiel know him as the supervillain Jaws from the Roger Moore James Bond movies. The Spy Who Loved Me in '77 and Moonraker in 1979. In the 90s, he did a cameo on a James Bond Pepsi commercial as well. He also played a bad guy with metal teeth on the movie Silver Streak with Gene Wilder and Richard Pryor. Between Bond films, Kiel got a role that could have been his biggest role ever. It was the role of the Incredible Hulk. He shot scenes for a week, according to one source I read, before it was determined he just wasn't bulky enough to play the Hulk. He was happy to lose the role, though, because the contacts he was forced to wear made him blind in one eye. You can still see him only for a second as the Hulk in the pilot episode in the scene where the Hulk saves the girl from drowning. Now we can only hope that some of the other scenes he filmed are sitting in a vault somewhere just waiting to be released as a special feature someday, so we can see what his version of the Hulk would have looked like from different angles. Kiel would go on to do lots more television appearances and movie roles in movies like Pale Rider, where he got beat up by Clint Eastwood. Then he actually fought Superboy in the 80s TV series, where he played an evil imp from Mr. Mxyzptlk's world, who wants to kill Mr. Mxyzptlk. Of course, Superboy has to stop him in this episode. This episode, in a way, sort of marks the only time where the Hulk fought Superman on screen. Well, at least before all those fan-made YouTube videos came along. He did a cool cameo with Mr. T on the Inspector Gadget movie. And before he retired, he did voice work as Jaws on a James Bond video game in 2003. The very last thing he was credited for was The Awakened in 2012. Unfortunately, he passed away in 2014. Now here's some quick trivia for you. He once said that everyone kept confusing him with Ted Cassidy, who voiced the Hulk, and Fred Gwynne, who played Herman Munster. He almost played Chewbacca in Star Wars, but turned it down to do Jaws for James Bond. He was actually terrified of heights, which being very tall didn't help matters. He was a born-again Christian who accredited his faith for helping him overcome alcoholism. He said he was offered a lot of money to do a beer commercial, but turned it down. A few years later, he got a job promoting root beer. He said he got paid more for that than he would have gotten for the beer commercial. Despite often playing a big, scary guy, he was well known for being a kind and friendly guy who was friends with many people he worked with. His wife was only 5 foot 4 inches tall. Well, that's all I have for you today. If I missed anything you think was important to mention on the life and career of Richard Kiel, please post it in the comments below.
Let's split. Go to my pad. That's where it's at. Groovy? Dig?
Oh, great. Now we got a super hippie on our hands.
Please subscribe if you haven't already. Hit that bell so you don't miss any of my future videos. Hit like and share this video with others. Every little bit helps me continue to bring you videos that I hope you all enjoy. And thanks, and have a great day.